Overcoming challenges and facing uncertainty, the three M's. This is one of the really special group of young, enthusiastic, very bright young minds that really have made me a better person. And I just want to hope they can make you a better person as well. So we do these meetings on Wednesdays at 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. I'm always late, like I am tonight, like always. I always say I've been on time twice in my lifetime, that the day I was born, and there must be a second time, I'm not quite sure. Actually, take that back. The day I got married, I was on time. My wife said, don't be late. I was probably late for my birth anyways as well. I don't know. I don't remember that day. But what I learned is that there's so many things you can do to make yourself stronger. So I'm really excited about this group here. And so Hannah's going to take it away and the rest of the group. And you're in for a real treat tonight. What's happening there, Hannah?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm also very excited about this webinar. So I'm one of the co-facilitators of the 3Ms group. And I'm just going to do a quick introduction about what the group is and what the presentation today will entail. So one of the things that we're learning about in terms of healthy aging, based on the Harvard longevity study, is that the key to healthy aging doesn't seem to lie in your social class, how much money you have, how much fame you have, your intelligence, or even your genetic makeup. It actually lies in the quality of your relationships. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have lots of relationships with many people. It can mean that you have a few really close-knit relationships that make your life really valuable. So much so that the key researcher in this study, Robert Waldringer, says that loneliness kills. It's as powerful as smoking or alcoholism. And so I think this kind of exemplifies why we started this group. We started this group back in February this year when the pandemic made everyone kind of socially isolated. So we started this group as a way to get patients interacting with one another online. I think our society has come a really long way where technology can bring us together. So that's what we wanted to do with this group. So hopefully today you learn a little bit of information about what we're all about. And if you ever do want to join us, please feel free to reach out. So a quick description about our group. So we are the group that focuses on the 3Ms: mindfulness, motivation, and moving. So every Wednesday night, we have an hour to an hour and a half session that covers these topics. And myself and 3 other facilitators, we get to teach content about these topics to patients and different viewers. And we also encourage one another to take care of ourselves while working towards our goals. And one of the key, I think, tenets of our group is that our well-being isn't just made up of physical health, it's physical, mental, and social well-being. And as I said, I'm actually joined today by Jerry and Dia. Sylvia wasn't able to make it tonight, but she sends her love. But the 4 of us lead the group every Wednesday evening at 7.
These 4 individuals, backtrack over here. These 4 individuals are wonderful. They've made me a better person. They can make you a better person. And after each session, I always feel stronger and more insight. And I hope you take advantage of what they have to offer, because I'm very proud of these young people. They're changing the world. Thank you.
It's our favorite part of the week, where we say among each other. So as I said, we meet every Wednesday at 7 p.m. and we meet on the video conferencing platform Zoom. And our patients were very gracious in letting me take a screenshot from our meeting this week. But usually it's about 12 of us together, just chatting, learning new things about mindfulness, motivation, and moving. But we really love it. We're very close-knit. We love to know what we're all up to every week. And I think it's a really great opportunity to maintain that social connection that's so important for our health and well-being. And here is a story from Robin, one of our regular patients who attends our 3Ms group as well.
Hi, I'm with Robin right now. We're just chatting away. And she's part of our 3M group, Mindfulness, Meditation, and Motion, and I love that group, and we're always welcome. But we're talking about, you've had bad luck. Your husband has his eye problem.
Yep.
You have liver cirrhosis.
Yep.
But you always come across as being so optimistic. And tell me about your journey about being overweight and what your thoughts are.
Well, I guess being overweight has been a thing since I've been young. I'm an adopted child. I came into a family with 13 other children, and they weren't happy that I was there. So I became a people pleaser. I always wanted to do and give for others, and I didn't think about myself. And I was very depressed because I felt things that I did was never good enough for anybody, right? So I just ate unhealthy. I didn't have very good self-esteem about myself. I felt like, you know what, well, who cares about me? So I overate, I lost weight, overate. I lived an abusive relationship for 12 years of my life too. That was pretty tough. But at the end of the day, I just think, you know what, tomorrow's going to be a better day and you can get through this. And if, as hard as it is, you can, right?
Well, you're quite inspiring, and I love those groups on Wednesdays. Just say a few words. What's it's like on Wednesdays at 7 o'clock?
I enjoy being with the group on Wednesdays at 7. I loved it when you had your come here groups, and then COVID came, and then I kind of missed out on that because I was doing so well in the groups at the weight loss, and now online it's just a great way to connect and feel a part of something again.
Well, I'm hoping at some point in time we'll have some sort of hybrid of being here and different events and on Zoom as well. And I find it's a very special group. I always sometimes I feel I have a busy day, things aren't going well, and the group makes me always feel better about myself. And the team always tells me to not be so hard on ourselves. And just,
That's true.
and it's very supportive. So I hope most people will take the opportunity to join us because it's a wonderful group of people with people like yourselves.
It is. And you know what? You learn what I've taken from this group in all my life and all that I've been through is you have to learn to love yourself because you're important too.
Well spoken, and thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Come join us.
Overeat.
Hi, I'm with Robin right now.
And thank you so much to Robin for sharing her story and sharing her experience with our group. I also just wanted to talk a little bit about the individual support calls we do every Wednesday afternoon. So these can be provided weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly based on your availability. But the support that we do includes motivation for exercise or lifestyle habits. So just maintaining those goals and being able to achieve them and having someone to keep you accountable. It can also be support on finding resources for exercise based on your abilities and stress management as well. So having said all of that, we're going to start off with some moving and then motivation and then mindfulness. I'll pass it off to Jerry here.
Perfect. Thank you, Hannah. So in my section, I talk a little bit about moving. So we're going to be answering the question, how do I stay active at home today? Next slide, please. So first, before we talk about how to get moving, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the guidelines that we have in Canada and also in a large part of the world. So these are the Canadian physical activity guidelines, what Canada recommends in terms of how much physical activity you should do in a week. So what Canada recommends is 150 minutes per week of moderate to vigorous physical activity. So moderate to vigorous is anything that gets your heart pumping, a little bit sweaty, maybe a little bit hard to talk, but you want to get 150 minutes per week of that sort of activity. And then 2 days per week of muscle strengthening activity. So this is kind of what you expect from exercise, like going to the gym and lifting weights, or just doing some resistance bands or anything that gets your muscles kind of resisting against some sort of force. Next slide, please. So what we want to do today is answer the question, how do I make time for physical activity? And something that I find really helps, and also something that helps a lot of people, is just scheduling in activity. So why should you do that? Well, you're more likely to follow through on something if you've already planned out to do it. So if you have it down on, let's say, your planner or a piece of paper, you're more likely to follow through than just kind of saying, oh, I'll just do it at that point. And as well, scheduling in your activity can also reduce stress and uncertainty around, when I should exercise, how I should exercise, but also importantly increases your sense of autonomy, so feeling like you're in control, and also your self-efficacy, because you can identify, I'm able to take the control to do something at this time, and that you're able to follow through on your promises as well. So increasing your autonomy and your self-efficacy is proven ways to increase your motivation to do something. So for exercise, that can be really important. So scheduling in physical activity can be a really good way of helping you make the time for physical activity. But what if your schedule is really busy? So for example, if you work a 9 to 5, what can you do then? So some tips that a lot of exercise professionals give is to schedule it in, in a time that works for you. So maybe you can try scheduling it early in the morning. So for example, at maybe 8 a.m. before you leave for work, or scheduling it later in the day, in the evening, in the afternoon when you come back from work. This will depend heavily on kind of your habits and also how you feel. Some people are more morning people, so they like to do so they can wake up earlier and are able to do exercise in the morning. Some people are kind of groggy in the morning and rather prefer it in the evening. So try out different things, whether that is when you wake up, doing exercise when you wake up, or when you get back from work, and just figure out the best time that works for you. And most importantly, scheduling in that time so you're consistent. And if maybe doing it during the day is not something you want to do, maybe you don't have the time at all, then you can try to do more during the weekends. So maybe you can do an hour on the weekends versus let's say 15 minutes every day, and you can add up to the 150 minutes per week. Next slide, please. So I'll just talk about how I do exercise and how I kind of schedule it into my life, just make it a little bit, feel a little bit more practical and give you a tangible example. So for me, I really like to exercise in the late afternoon, early evening. So usually I go on the treadmill at around 5 o'clock, sometimes 4:30. And I like to do that because I can really use exercise as a way to boost my mood. So at the end of my school day, after I've had all my classes and I'm feeling tired, I use exercise as a way to boost my mood, boost my energy, and also use it as a way to kind of mark the end of the workday. And I found that's what really works for me. And again, that might be different for everybody. But I think just a takeaway from these slides is just to try different things and figure out what time works best for you. And importantly, schedule that time in so you can be consistent. Next slide, please. So now we talk about how you can, ways you can do to schedule an exercise, to do exercise. I'm going to talk about some exercise you can do that might be better if you maybe don't have time or you just want to do something quick and easy. So I'm going to talk about exercise snacks. So these are 5 to 10 minute quick workouts of higher intensity that you can do up to 3 times a day. And it actually is very useful and can also have a lot of benefits that exercise typically does. So even exercise that you do for 30 minutes, you can still see benefit even in these 5 to 10 minute workouts. So there was a study at McMaster by a professor, and he looked at using exercise snacks. So he asked school age people, so it was 20, 21-year-olds to run up the stairs every time they go to their class. So it worked out to about maybe once to 3 times a week. They do this quick 5 to 10 minute sprint up the stairs, and he did it for 6 weeks. And he looked at how their fitness changed over the course of these 6 weeks. And they found that after doing these exercise snacks, those students had an increased cardiorespiratory fitness compared to before they did the exercise snacks. There's really good evidence that even doing these 5 to 10 minute quick workouts can boost your fitness. As well, these exercise snacks can also have other benefits in building your self-efficacy because it's not as time intensive. You're only doing 5 to 10 minutes. If you can finish that workout, then it gives you confidence that you're actually able to do workouts, do exercise, and help build that self-efficacy for exercise. And that's really important in increasing motivation. As well, you can break up sedentary time. So you're not sitting down or sedentary for large amounts of the day. It breaks it up and decreases that sedentary time. And sedentary time is actually one of the risk factors for chronic diseases in the future. So it's something you want to make sure you don't spend a lot of time doing. And as well, exercise snacks are time efficient, and usually you don't really need equipment. All you need is just your body and your body weight. And you can also do it, throughout the day. You don't need to spend a large amount of time doing the exercise as well. So for example, like I said before, if you want to do an exercise snack, maybe you can try going up and down the stairs about 2 to 3 times in your home. So that will take maybe about 5 to 10 minutes. And you can do that up to 3 times a day over the course of a week. And that's a great way, a great example of exercise snacking. Or if you're at work, maybe just going up and down the stairs at work in your break time. That could be another great application. Or doing like a quick aerobic circuit, like jumping jacks and running on the spot. Anything that gets your heart pumping for 5 to 10 minutes. Next slide, please. So what I want to reiterate to everyone and how to start exercise and how to be successful is to start small and to build up. So I really like this picture here of the arrows and the target. So even though those arrows aren't hitting the bullseye, they are consistent. You see they're all bunched in that corner over there. So even though it's not hitting the bullseye, it's not, maybe you're not reaching the goal, it's still consistent and they're still doing, archery. And what we find with exercise is that even doing a little bit is very beneficial. And the greatest benefit you actually get from exercise is going from nothing to something. So even if you're doing 5 to 10 minutes, even if you're doing those exercise snacks, it can create really good benefits for your health. And to just build up gradually from that. So starting small, 5 to 10 minutes, and build up, build up, build up, so you can get to that 150 minutes per week. So doing this can help make it seem less daunting, can increase your self-efficacy as you're able to progress and build up the time. And you're also more likely to stick with it because it doesn't feel like a big task that you're doing all at once, where you're starting small and you're building up that confidence as you go. And eventually you can get those arrows, you can hit the goal and you can meet your goal. So yeah, I just find this picture is a really good way of kind of emphasizing this point that if you're not able to exercise for 150 minutes right now, just to do your best to start small and build your way up. Next slide, please. Oh yes, and consistency is key. And so now we talked about doing some exercise and workouts. I just want to talk about the importance of warming up and cooling down. So as we engage in more physical activity, be sure you do a proper warm up and also to cool down a little bit after your exercise. So studies show that if you warm up, you can decrease your risk of injury and you can make sure you don't hurt yourselves, right? It will help get those blood pumping to your muscles, get those muscles a little bit warm, so you're not working with a cold muscle that might tear more easily when you're doing any sort of exercise. So warming up can decrease your risk of injury. And cool downs are very important because one of the things that cooling down does is that it activates your skeletal muscle pump. So if you stop your exercise right away and you just, so for example, you're running and you stop right away and you just remain still, what happens is your blood that's been going into your muscles, for example, in your legs, it'll start to pool there. You'll have a hard time getting back up to your heart. And this can cause feelings of dizziness and lightheadedness after exercise. So by doing some cool downs, by moving a little bit, even after your workout, that will activate this skeletal muscle pump where you're using your muscles to aid in pumping the blood back up to your heart so that you can get your blood, so your heart can pump out that blood throughout your body and you don't feel lightheaded or dizzy. So warming up and cooling down are very important as you start exercise. Next slide, please. So we did a really, really cool video on how to warm up and cool down on Dr. Curnews YouTube channel. So I'll just show how you can find it. So if you go to YouTube, type in Dr. Curnew at the search bar, and I'll find Dr. Curnews channel. Once you're there, click the little magnifying glass that I pointed to on the screen, and then type in warm-ups and press enter. Next slide, please. And then you'll find this cool video that we did, and Haley and Daniela are also here tonight, and they were part of this video as well. So this shows some really easy ways to warm up and to cool down before and after exercise. So check it out if you're interested.
Awesome. So thanks, Jerry, for giving that introduction. So where can we actually find exercise resources? So a really great exercise resource we can use is GentleFit YMCA at Home. So this actually shows pretty low impact workouts for those with reduced mobility. So if you have any issues with joints or you have a little bit of trouble moving, that's totally okay. These certified personal trainers are going to actually take you through around 15 to 30-minute workouts. There's multiple different time options depending on how much time you have to dedicate. And they really try and work you and make sure that they're working at a pace that works best for that reduced mobility clientele. Another great option is YouTube. So a variety of different channels and videos can kind of walk you through different exercise routines, and you actually get to experience an instructor doing it along with you. So here are some channel ideas that you can kind of just type into your YouTube search bar. So there's Grow with Joe, Senior Fitness with Meredith, Silver Sneakers, and also Dr. Curnews YouTube channel, similar to how Jerry showed you to find the warm-ups and cool downs. You can also type exercise into the search bar there. And there are some videos that we've accumulated there, kind of compiling different exercises to follow along with us volunteers. Another great resource is actually Google. So there's printable exercise guides that you can follow along at your own pace. Rather than watching a video, if you find that might not be exactly your ideal way of exercising, that's totally okay. You can kind of look onto Google and find printable exercise guides that will kind of walk you through different exercise routines. You can do it at your own pace rather than having to keep in time with a video on YouTube. So an example is Philip's Lifeline. It has 14 exercises for strength and balance, and it's just a guide and a PDF that you can print off or even have up on a tablet or your computer and just follow along as you do the exercises. But it's a great way to kind of get inspiration to do a little bit more exercise. And also, if you feel comfortable, you can also go to a local gym. So if you have a gym membership at any point or at anywhere, there's so many personal trainers who will work at these gyms who would love to work with clients who are beginning an exercise routine and kind of work with you to make sure you're getting comfortable in the gym, knowing how to work machines or knowing how to do some free weight exercises. And some gyms actually also hold different exercise classes that you can participate in, which might also help kind of increase your social kind of interactions with people and might actually develop into a community that you are part of, which is super cool. However, we totally understand that some people have trouble with their knees or back. So sorry, next slide, Hannah, sorry about that. So that's totally okay. I know for me, I played soccer for all my life and that caused me to have a lot of pain in my knees. So I do something called exercise modifications. So exercise modifications are basically adjusting variables and decreasing the complexity to work with your body. So what this means is that you adapt an exercise that will keep your body moving and working through same muscles, but it fits your body and fitness level a little bit better. Although these exercise modifications might have some negative negative kind of views associated with them, modifications are not the easy way out. It just gives your body options that work a little bit better for you. So they shouldn't be seen as negative because you're still moving your body and you're still working with your body. It's just you're making it a little bit easier for the parts of your body that might be in a little bit more pain. So it helps to remove any barriers and makes workouts a little bit more accessible. So a common example would be a wall push-up. So instead of going kind of down on the ground and doing a push-up that way, you could use the wall, which will help work the same muscles as a normal push-up. It's just going to have a little bit less stress on your body. I know I personally do push-ups this way because ground push-ups I really struggle with them and it can be pretty difficult for me. So I do this easily to help me work those same muscles and ensure I'm getting a good exercise in. Another really common thing to do is changing your exercise routine. Changing the exercise. So if you're following a video or an exercise guide and an exercise comes up that tends to be hard on your body and you know that, it's totally okay to do another exercise instead. So for me, if I see lunges, because again, I have pretty bad knee problems, lunges can be pretty difficult for me. So instead, I'll do some squats, or maybe I'll do a glute bridge instead. So this will find ways to keep your body moving and working those same muscles. So it's important to remember that you should be working smarter and not harder, and listen to your body and be honest with yourself on what you're capable of doing. So another important thing to kind of keep in mind is that cardio, and although cardio is, I know, pretty scary for me, I do not like to run and it's not my favorite cup of tea. So there's actually more to cardio than just running and walking. So we kind of wanted to give you a few different options that you can kind of look at and consider if you want to get your body moving a little bit more. So a great one would be jump rope. There's boxing, body weight movements, which would involve things like squats or other kind of exercises that are just moving your body without kind of weights associated with it. It's more of a quick movement it's more high reps kind of movements. Cycling, so riding a bike, rowing, an elliptical is a really great one. It's pretty easy on your joints. Dancing, which is pretty fun if you like to put on some music. Swimming, water aerobics, and so many more exercises. But what's important is you find exercises that you personally enjoy and that work for you. So that's kind of the main takeaway, is that experiment with different exercises, experiment with different forms of cardio, because you'll end up finding one that you enjoy and that you will go to, and it will actually be a fun experience for you. So after Jerry and I kind of gave a whole synopsis about movements, what we're going to do is actually do a few chair exercises. So what we're going to need is a chair to kind of get started. And so what that means is I have my chair here, and I'll kind of adjust the video to see it a little bit better. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do some seated jumping jacks. So what that means is you're going to start with your legs together in the chair and your arms at your sides, and you're going to bring them both out and back down. And you're going to do that. Suggested here is about 30, but you can do it at your own pace and work your way up. But we'll do about like 10 together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's a great way to get your kind of heart going, your blood pumping. The next exercise we're going to do is some seated chair twists. So what that means is you're going to have your kind of try and put your feet on the ground, and you're going to take your arms. And a good way to do this is kind of put it at your sides. And you're going to just rotate your body, making sure your back is straight all the way to the back until you're facing like 90 degrees the other way. So you're going to do that, hold it for about 5 seconds, and then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. And we'll do about 5 on each side together. So that's 1. That's 2. That's 3. That's 4, and the last one, that's 5. Awesome. So that one's a really great core exercise and a back exercise. So the last one we're going to do is we're going to work our the sides of our abdomen, which are called our obliques. So as you can see in the picture, you can kind of put your elbow up here. And what you're going to do is you're going to have your arm down at your side, and you're just going to kind of go and almost, that arm at the side is going to almost pull your body down, making sure you're giving your body a nice squeeze at that angle. And we'll do, again, like 5 on each side. So that's 1, 2, making sure you're getting that squeeze on your side. 3, 4, 5. And you're going to just do the exact same thing on the other side, putting your head behind your head. If doesn't work, you can always put your hand at your side too, but I kind of like it behind my head. And we're going to do 5 on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Awesome. So those are 3 great chair exercises you can do. And that's all for movement. So let's move on to motivation.
Thanks, Haley. That was awesome. A little bit of blood pumping for the rest of the webinar. So today I want to talk a little bit about motivation, and it's probably one of the trickiest things to get a little bit of a hold on. We need it in every aspect of our lives, from school to maintaining good relationships and also healthy and active living. But I've never been taught how to be motivated, and I'm sure none of us really have. There's never been a class where they sit down and tell you what exactly it is and how you get motivated. In fact, you probably need to be motivated to learn about motivation in order for you to get motivated. So a little bit of a conundrum, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to fix it. We're going to learn how to get motivated. But first, just like our Wednesday sessions, showing a joke is mandatory because we love to laugh. So next slide, please, Hannah. This is my favorite one. It says, my doctor asked me if I had ever had a stress test. And I replied, yes, it's called life. And I thought this was funny and very applicable to everyone that comes to Dr. Curnew's clinic. And the first concept that I want to talk about is the 2-minute rules. Sometimes our goals can intimidate us. We have big dreams, we have big aspirations, and stuff that we just hope will happen. But if our goals are too big, it can easily overwhelm us. Sometimes we might not even have goals. We don't know where to start or if we can even start ourselves. This is why I always emphasize the 2-minute rule. You take a task that you have in mind and you shorten it to doing it in only 2 minutes. Here are some examples. If one of your tasks or one of your goals is to read before bed every single night, a 2-minute version of that is to read 1 page every single night. I know for Hannah, one of her goals is yoga. And if her goal is do 30 minutes of yoga, a 2-minute bite-sized version is take out your yoga mat. And this goes the same, even for household tasks like folding the laundry. The 2-minute version is fold a pair of socks. The 2-minute rule is you're still actively doing the task, but you're just getting a kickstart at it. And you're thinking about it in just 2 minutes, so it doesn't overwhelm you and you have a place to start. Next slide, please. The goal is to do it for 2 minutes and then stop. So for example, unlike Haley, if you like running and you want to start running, you can go for one. But if you think that it's overwhelming, you don't know if you're one of those people that can go for 5 miles and keep going and seem super happy after it, just stop after 2 minutes. You're still someone who went for a run. If you want to start meditating, but you don't know if you're someone who can sit there and not think for 10 minutes, do it for 2 minutes and see how it feels. Developing your habit starts with only developing 120 seconds at a time. And why does this work? What's the point? Bringing it back down to 2 minutes makes it more achievable. You take a complex goal, for example, like eating healthy, and make it so simple. For example, just eating 3 apple slices in the morning. A 2-minute habit is also really easy because it can become automatic. Think about how often you brush your teeth. You brush your teeth every single day in the morning for exactly 2 minutes. This is literal proof that a 2-minute habit can become automatic and it can last a lifetime and create lifelong change. It constantly puts into your brain that you're a type of person who likes to achieve, and you're a type of person that can achieve your goals. One example that I like to show is if you show up to the gym every single day for 5 days, that's your goal. But if you just show up for 2 minutes, you're still the type of person that shows up at the gym for 5 days a week. That doesn't change. The length of time that you go there doesn't change, but you associate yourself with those gym buffs. You are that person. And the length of time will extend naturally. The longer you keep practicing the 2-minute rule, sometimes you'll feel comfortable and you'll go for 10 minutes at a time, and it'll go to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 50 minutes. And soon you're going to want to spend all day at the gym, but it just starts with 2 minutes because repetition is key. There's also an old saying in love: ask your crush out within the first 2 minutes of seeing them. And this is because your brain isn't thinking. 2 minutes is not enough time for you to start thinking, what if they're not going to like me back? What if I don't look good today? Within the first 2 minutes, you're ready to go. And it's the same with developing any type of habit. You have enough confidence within those 2 minutes to believe that you're that type of person that can do the task. I also want to talk a little bit about self-control. For a lot of people, they associate motivation with self-discipline. And this includes doing every single thing that you don't want to do. And this is really interesting because there's a study done at McGill where they took 159 students and they tracked them throughout the semester. They wanted to know how self-control affected how productive they were. And what they found was that the students that had fewer temptations in the semester, so for example, fewer parties to go to, fewer junk food lying around, they were the ones that were more successful at the end of the semester. They got better grades, they made better use of the time, and they felt less burnt out. And those that said that they have a lot of self-control and identified with self-control and limiting and restricting themselves, they were exhausted and there was no difference. At the end of the semester, they were either the same or worse than the other students, and there was no payoff. They were just tired. So what this means is that sometimes resisting activities and thinking that you have to be disciplined doesn't always work. And I'm a big advocate for just doing what's fun for you. Healthy living can be fun because it's not difficult. Sometimes we spend so much time restricting ourselves, so much effort, thinking that we can't do this, we can't do that. We stop thinking about what we can do. We stop letting ourselves have fun in the process. And healthy and active living, exercise, eating well, is all about when it's not difficult, making it enjoyable for you, because then the process lasts a lifetime. It's hard to do stuff that we don't want to for a while. And this brings me to the concept of temptation bundling. So this is a little complex, so just stay with me. In the first graph, there's a green area. And this is what happens when you sacrifice to perform good habits. So for example, instead of after work, you watch TV. Instead of watching TV, you go to the gym. So you're sacrificing some of that downtime where you're just sitting down by pushing your body to the limits and promoting health. This is a constant increase over time. You're sacrificing bad habits and replacing them with good habits. The red area below that first graph is what happens when you succumb to bad habits. For example, like skipping a workout. This is when you're not improving over time. And the graph gets lower and lower and lower because it becomes harder to improve. These habits keep sticking over time and you're just kind of digging yourself in a little bit of a hole. Now, it's hard to sacrifice all the time. I mean, what kind of people would we be if we never gave in to bad behavior, if we never indulged a little bit? I mean, I wouldn't have any fun at all. I don't know about anyone else. We can't all be Dr. Curnew, who goes for runs all the time, doing everything. Some of us, we need to let loose a little bit, and that's okay, because balance is the key. And this is temptation bundling. So if you know that you look forward to a good Netflix session after a long day of work, but you also know that it's kind of the only time where you have to go to the gym or to go out and do some exercise, all you have to do is put them together. You can watch that show at the gym. So you're associating something you love, which is that Netflix show, with the gym, which you may not love yet. You're bundling a temptation with a potential good behavior, a good habit. And over time, with patience, it will stick. And you're going to think going to the gym is pleasurable because I can watch my show. So it sticks with anything. And I encourage you all to try it out. Think of something that's good, a good temptation, and bundle it with something that's kind of difficult for you right now. And I promise over time, it will really make a difference. Another aspect of motivation is our internal dialogue. How do we talk to ourselves? And communication with ourselves is so important because we're the first voice that we hear in the morning and the last voice that we hear at night. unless you have a really annoying partner or a roommate, because then it changes. But typically, you're the last voice you hear at night. We like to challenge ourselves in our Wednesday sessions with if-then statements. This is because we love goal planning, but we're all worriers. We think, okay, what about this? What about that? What about this situation? What if this happens? And this is when if-then statements come into fruition. They allow you to prepare for situations, for potential setbacks, and they let you worry a little bit less because you are already prepared. So for example, if you have a massive sweet tooth like Dr. Curnew, and you know that there's a huge possibility that you're going to want dessert after dinner, you can plan for it. You can plan for that obstacle and anticipate. I know myself. If I crave dessert, then I'm going to eat a sweet. I'm going to eat, sorry, not a sweet. I'm going to eat a fruit. So if you know that that obstacle may happen, you plan for something instead of it. If you crave something sweet, you're going to eat a fruit. It's also sweet, but it's a better alternative. If I know that I'm going to want to eat potato chips on the couch after I come home from school, then I'm going to replace the potato chip with veggie straws. They're not exactly carrot sticks, but they're not chips either. So they're a better alternative. And you can continue these if-then statements for every obstacle that you know might stand in your way that you kind of want to get rid of. Next slide, please. Achieving goals is difficult, and we know that there's a lot of us that face common barriers to our goals. If there were no barriers, we'd all be as rich as Jeff Bezos right now, but life gets in the way. And these are 6 common barriers that we've identified. Number 1 is lacking courage and feeling unready to take action. Number 2 is viewing mistakes as failures. Number 3 is not anticipating obstacles as triggers. Number 4, focusing on the end result instead of the process itself. Number 5 is taking big steps and aiming too high. And number 6 is not having a plan. And we can actually combat these common barriers with if-then statements. Number 1, when you're feeling unready and you're feeling like you're not prepared to do some action, having plans for different statements can help you get there. If you're planning for alternative situations and if you're planning to get around obstacles, it can make a worrywart feel way more prepared and have some kind of plan to start with. Number 2, this is a hard one because sometimes we can view mistakes as our failures, and it's pretty common, but we can use those mistakes to form new if-then plans. Sometimes we fall a little bit and we don't know how to get back up on the horse, but we can plan around that. So if this happens again, then I know what to do. That's an example of taking your mistake and not viewing it as a failure, but another stepping stool to get to your goal. Number 3, if-then plans require you to reflect and plan for those obstacles and those triggers. So they're a direct way to come up with an alternative solution for yourself so that you don't get stuck when you're faced with an obstacle. Number 4, if-then statements involve planning for situations. And instead of focusing on the end result, they allow you to focus on your journey. They allow you to plan for your journey and enjoy the process of planning for your journey. They also, for number 5, they help you break it into smaller steps because you just break it down from statement to statement with those mini plans. And number 6, setting if-then plans make you more likely to achieve your goals. So if you feel like you're aiming too high, setting these if-then plans can help you narrow down the little aspects of your goals before you start reaching for the overall one. And now we're just going to get into a little bit of an example. For example, you can plan out your week using if-then statements. If it's Monday and you know that you want to jog for 30 minutes in the morning, you can plan for that. But sometimes, again, life gets in the way. If you're feeling super tired, more than usual, you can come up with an alternative plan. So if I am feeling more tired than usual, then I will walk for 30 minutes instead of jogging. If it's Saturday and I know that I want to go on a hike, but I'm so busy and I don't have a lot of time, then I'm going to exercise the next day for an extra hour to make up for my time. It's also okay to do your best every day and not plan every single day, because we know that sometimes our days can get overwhelming. But these are just an example of taking an overwhelming situation, taking an obstacle, and flipping it into a productive session just for yourself. And I want to end off our motivation session with a little activity of goal setting, because a lot of motivation boils down to knowing what your goals are and thinking about how to achieve them. So I want us to do this all together. If you have a paper and a pen, please take them out. Or if you have your laptop, you can also write these down. But the first step is to identify your goal. And the way we like to do this is using SMART goals. So you've probably heard of this before, but if not, make it specific, make it measurable, make it achievable, realistic, and time bound. So what I mean by that, I'm going to give an example as we go along. So specific is, I personally want to read a book every month. So that's a specific goal for me. It's measurable because I know how many pages are in the book. It's achievable because I know I can do it. And I know that in a month, it's a good enough time frame for me to get to the end result. So it's also realistic and it's time bound because I gave myself a time restriction every single month. So think about that when you're thinking about your goal today. And I'll give you a couple seconds. So hopefully you've gotten your goal down. I want you to think about why. What is your why? What's the reason behind you writing down this goal? Is it an emotion? Is it a reward at the end? Is it because you're looking forward to a specific outcome? Think about the short-term goal and the long-term goal, and the short-term outcome and the long-term outcome. So for me, for reading, I know that the short-term outcome is that it gives me a good alternative to maybe those bad habits that I'm forming instead of reading. So instead of, I don't know, going on my phone for 30 minutes a day, I can read instead. In long term, I know that's better for my brain health because there's a lot of research out there that shows that reading is good for activating certain neural pathways in your brain. Think about your whys. The next thing I want you to do is make it bite-sized. So this is my favorite one because I'm always talking about making your goals bite-sized. So think about the mini version of your goal. For me, it's going to be the one that I showed in the 2-minute rule. I'm just going to read maybe not one page, maybe 5 pages a day. And to me, that's my bite-sized version of my goal. And finally, I want you to think about who's holding you accountable. Do you have someone else that can maybe help you keep track? Can you buddy up with someone where they'll help you envision your goal and encourage you along with it? Maybe you like to journal and you like to write things down. That's also a form of accountability because you can look back and reflect on what you did. And if you made progress towards your goal, maybe you're just having a rough time and you need to reset. That's okay too. What's your support system and who's holding you accountable? And you did it. You made your first goal and you made your first little step. So congratulations. You were motivated today and we're ready to move on to mindfulness.
That was awesome, Dia. Thank you. I feel very motivated now to go on with my night after the webinar. So I'm just going to be covering some mindfulness with Daniela today. So first, I just want everyone to take a moment and think about some of the things that have helped you overcome setbacks and challenges or even hard times you've had in the past. I know we've presented some ideas here, but I just want you to think about what's worked for you. So for example, for myself, thinking about this prompt, one of the things that comes to mind is my support system. I know Gian mentioned that's really important to have a support system. And for me, I know whenever I've had really hard times, I always rely on my family and friends to be there to remind me that I'm capable of achieving whatever it is I've set out to do. And I know it's really important for us to be able to be our own cheerleader, but sometimes when we have really low confidence and self-efficacy, I think it can also be very powerful to have someone next to you who you really care about and whose opinion really matters to you, to tell you that you're capable of achieving whatever you set out to do, and telling you that they're there for you and that they're supporting you as you kind of progress with that journey. Just want you to think about what things work for you and what things may not have worked for you in the past, and think about why it is that those particular things really helped you overcome those challenges and set forth. And so one of the things I want to talk about was how we can overcome obstacles with our emotions. And this is actually part of the presentation that Ia gave this week on Wednesday night. We were just talking about how we can overcome obstacles. And so this is based in emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is, we're talking about whether we can recognize how we or others feel, how they're feeling, and how we respond to that and how we kind of act upon it. And when it comes to emotional intelligence and overcoming obstacles, the first step here is admitting that something went wrong. You can think about what caused it, could it have been avoided? And something I really want to emphasize here about obstacles is the key in this step is identifying whether it's something that you could have avoided yourself and whether it's something that you can take full responsibility for. I like to balance this out because sometimes there are things that are out of our control. You know, we can always rationalize it and say that it was on us, but sometimes there are external factors that affect our mood, that affect our motivation, and that affects our outcomes as well. So with this model, it really works when you're thinking about what was in your control to affect the outcomes of the situation. And so after we've admitted what went wrong in the process and maybe what are some of the steps you could have taken to improve upon this if it happens again, is letting yourself be upset before you rationalize it. So oftentimes when we're going through a hard time, I think a lot of the advice we get is often to look at the bright side of things or find the positive in the negative. And I think this can be really beneficial when we're talking about, you know, learning our lesson from a failure or making a mistake. And it can be really beneficial in going towards that successful outcome. But I think it's also important to let yourself, you know, almost mourn whatever you felt like you've kind of lost out on by not achieving what you were setting out to do, and acknowledging the negative emotions that you're feeling about the situation, because it's suppressing it can actually cause you to kind of deter your success later on. So it's really important to be able to label those negative emotions. And as Gia mentioned on Wednesday night, some of the emotions that we have can be, you know, the biggest proponents to making us want to take action. You know, it can make us want to strive for change and make decisions that really can impact our lives. So being able to label those and thinking, what is this emotion trying to, you know, tell me? You know, if I'm feeling angry, if I'm feeling frustrated, what is that telling me that I should do? Do I want to change things? And if so, how can I do that? Which leads me to the last point here, which is aiming for action. So I thought this was really interesting. So on the left over here, this is called a circumplex. So it's a circle that kind of covers an array of emotions. So on one side over here, we're talking about negative emotions. And on one side, we're talking about positive emotions. And they're kind of categorized by high arousal and low arousal. So the key here is that when it comes to overcoming obstacles, we want to experience high arousal emotions that propel us to action. So for example, if we take anger, feeling anger for a long extended period of time is definitely not good. But in the moment when we're feeling angry about something, that can want us to make change, to seek out ways that we can make a difference. And that can apply to our lives. So if we're trying to develop an exercise plan or eat healthier, if we're feeling angry about the way we've done things in the past, we want to do better, that will propel us to make a plan, write it down, and fulfill it. Same thing goes for when we talk about social issues. We have a lot of activists who are very passionate about the issues that they feel need to be advocated for. That's another example of using those high arousal emotions and putting it into practice. And so I think one of the things I took away from this presentation was to think about how you can incorporate high arousal emotions to help you plan for your goals and plan for the outcomes that you're looking for. And at the bottom here, I've just written that setbacks and failure are a necessary and common part to achieving success. And I know Dr. Curnew likes to mention this a lot during our sessions, but whether we're children or whether we're adults, we're bound to make mistakes. We're all human. I think mistakes are really common. And oftentimes when we're achieving success, just like when we're riding a bicycle, we're going to make a lot of mistakes before we get to success, right? And I think sometimes as we become adults, we tend to think that success should be easier because we're smarter, we've had experience. But I think it's really important to remember that you are also human and you're allowed to make those mistakes and you can still get back up from them. And I think it's really interesting because we know that in studies, we say that failure can actually kind of drive you to success. So when we make mistakes, it doesn't actually make our performance worse and actually doesn't affect it at all. And those failures can teach us the mistakes that we don't have to make in the future and it can make us very successful. And so kind of going on that, I want to talk about the 3 parts of self-compassion and how you can be kind to yourself in the process. So psychologist Dr. Neff says that it's made up of self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. So self-kindness is just referring to being kind to yourself when you're feeling like you failed or you're feeling inadequate. And common humanity is recognizing that mistakes are part of the shared human experience and recognizing that you're not alone in the journey that you're trying to set out on and knowing that there are other people around you who are striving to achieve the same thing and who are going through those same struggles as you, especially when it comes to exercise. I think it can really help to know that other people around you are struggling too, because we can kind of celebrate the successes and still encourage one another when we have been kind of faltering a little bit. And finally, mindfulness is just referring to observing those negative thoughts or emotions. So kind of back to this previous slide when we're talking about letting yourself be upset before rationalizing, is letting those negative thoughts and emotions in without suppressing them or exaggerating them and really self-identifying with that emotion. I think one of the tenets of mindfulness is that we don't attach ourselves to that emotion really deeply. We let that emotion in, we feel it, but we also let it go. And I think the letting go portion can be very difficult sometimes when we've experienced failures. It's definitely a very important part of being self-compassionate as well. And so having said that, I want to pass it off to Daniela to talk about how we can look at setbacks in a more positive light.
All right, so yeah, just as Hannah said, I'm just going to be discussing how we look at setbacks in a positive light, and particularly, why does a failure seem to stick in our minds so much longer than a positive thought? So let's first use the example of a glass half full versus half empty, and I'm sure we've all heard of this before. So different people, interpret and see situations differently, and therefore the same glass can be seen as half full or half empty. And a lot of the time, depending on how you describe that glass to someone, it will change how they feel about it. So if you describe it as half full, people will like the glass. They'll think, oh, a glass half full of water, that's great. Or if you describe it as half empty, then people might not like it quite as much because the water is half drink. It's not as good as a half full. So when we are thinking of this glass or any situation as negatively or positively, how easily can we switch between thinking of it in a negative or positive way? And for many of us, our view of the world tends to tilt more towards the negative side, and we often have to work much, much harder to see the upside of things, or to switch from seeing the glass half empty to the glass half full. So why is this? Once we think of something as a loss, the way it's thinking about it tends to stick in our head and kind of resist our attempt to change it. So we really, really have to work to see the upside and kind of retrain our minds to look at things in a positive way. So we always tend to talk about the things that are bugging us, and we forget to talk about the good stuff. And it's exactly where our minds need the most practice. So sometimes our negative thoughts and moods can stick with others and influence the way that they might see situations. So how can we counteract that for us and also other people? So we know that negative thoughts tend to kind of stick around a whole lot more than positive ones. So knowing this, say your boss at work, snaps at you. And instead of yelling back at them, in your mind and even verbally, you might kind of forgive them for, yelling at you or saying some not so kind things. And by responding in a positive way, we are kind of like reframing the situation and stopping our brains from dwelling on the negative and then spreading it to other people. So instead of yelling back and, having your negative comments stick with them for the rest of their day, choosing how we can respond determines how we and they experience that situation. And then, when you go home, you might think about that situation more positively. Next slide, thank you. Next, we're going to be discussing how to redefine failures and successes. So how can we change our view of failure and turn it into an opportunity to succeed again? So a lot of the time, optimistic thinking kind of gets a bad rap as being, unrealistic and that people can be too happy or too positive. But we truly can live happier and healthier lives when we learn to kind of discover opportunities in problems. So these problems can be reframed as new challenges and new opportunities that we can turn into our advantages to kind of further personal growth and increase creativity for, finding better ways to live and deal with difficult situations. So when we redefining failure, we have to acknowledge that failure is a completely natural part of life that can impact us negatively or positively, depending on how we want to define it. So when learning from failure, we need to recognize that it presents an opportunity for continued learning and growth, while success can, although it's amazing, can sometimes lead to complacency and, you feel unsatisfied if you feel no ups and downs. So if you're constantly up, then you're eventually might feel a little bit unsatisfied if all you're feeling is success and you don't really have any peaks and valleys in your life. So also, we want to redefine success. We tend to place a lot of weight on what other people think of us. So for example, you might have performed, you did a speech, you did a dance, and you wonder, I wonder how this person thought I did, as opposed to reflecting on what an amazing job you did for yourself. So you often place a lot of value and weight on what your mom thinks, what your dad thinks, what your friend thinks, and not so much what you think about how you personally performed. So focusing more on what's right for you and what you did well versus the approval or disapproval of other people can really, really help to reframe your mindset. Thank you. Next, we're just going to talk about some resilience. So resilience is the ability to adapt and recover and kind of thrive in the face of adversity and hardship. So fortunately, it's something that's built up over time, rather something that you're naturally born with. So, if you don't think you're a very resilient person, you can absolutely build up resiliency and become a resilient person. So a well-known psychologist, Martin Seligman, describes three main ways that determine our ability to deal with difficult things and look at setbacks in a more positive way. So the first one is making our thoughts less personal. So remembering to not always blame yourself for something that's happened. And although it might have been partially your fault, you can also consider outside factors that might have caused this setback. The second is recognizing that a setback is not permanent. So they're not forever, they don't last forever. So realizing that setbacks are temporary can help you to improve your ability to adapt from different situations, learn from them, and then move on, so that they are not lingering in your life forever. And lastly, making our thoughts less pervasive. So pervasiveness is thinking that one single bad situation applies to every single aspect of your life. So if we think of a situation as just that one single situation and try to not let it impact every single aspect of our life, we can again carry on and enjoy our lives as much as possible. And some ways that we can start viewing setbacks more positively is by focusing on things that we are grateful for. So many people write gratitude lists. So they wake up in the morning, they open a journal, and they jot down some things that they're grateful for. So it could be your morning coffee. It could be the fact that you got up this morning and you walked down the stairs. Your body did that for you. It could be the sunrise. You might be thankful for the birds chirping or your pet sitting on your lap. So taking a little bit of time out of your day every morning to jot down a couple of things that you're thankful for can kind of prime you to have a good day and kind of change your outlook for the rest of the day. And the next one is rehearsing good news and your accomplishments. So we sometimes forget to talk about the good parts of our day. So you come home from work, your boss yelled at you, and you immediately want to go to your mom, your dad, or your partner or a friend and just kind of rant about it and say, this person made me so angry, and then you're just kind of angry for the rest of the night. And while it's good to get those negative emotions out, like Hannah mentioned earlier, you also want to rehearse the good news. So say someone complimented you on your great work that day, or said, oh, I really like your outfit, or something really positive about your day. We want to place as much importance on rehearsing those positive situations and emotions as much as the negative ones as well. And lastly, I have a quick activity for you all as well, and it's being mindful with your heart. So think to yourselves, or if you have a piece of paper handy, jot down any things that might come to mind as I run through these few questions. So beginning with H, health, what did your body do for you today? So take a minute and really appreciate the incredible thing keeping you alive right now, your body. Think about how hard your heart is working and pumping the blood to get to all your organs, and be grateful for every step you take and every breath that's going in and out. Thankful for the little things that your body did for you today. All right, next is E, so eat. What did you feed your body to nourish yourself today? Maybe it was a little quick snack. You picked up a little granola bar, or maybe you cooked up a gourmet meal for yourself. Take a minute and be thankful that you got to enjoy and savor each bite of whatever you cooked up for yourself today. Awesome. Next is A, activity. What did you do that you really enjoyed today? So did you take your dog for a walk? Did you read an interesting article in the newspaper? Or maybe you gave someone a call that you haven't spoken to in a really long time. So take a minute and reflect on that awesome moment that happened today. All right, next is R. So relationship. Whom do you look forward to connecting with? So is it someone who always puts a smile on your face, maybe a child or a grandchild? Or is it someone you maybe haven't seen in a while that you would love to plan to meet up with? You can jot down someone, you want to give a call later, or you want to meet up with safely in the next couple of days. And then the last one is time. So what are you doing right now? So for most of you, it'll be watching this webinar. So take a minute and be grateful for the gift of time, not the past or the future, but right now. Every day you wake up is a brand new set of 24 hours ahead of you, and you want to be sure that you're taking advantage of that time. And it might be planning with if-then statements. It might be jotting down what you're grateful for. Whatever it is, you want to make sure you're taking full advantage of it and focusing on the present and what you can't control.
Thanks so much, Daniela. I hope everyone enjoyed that activity. I know I did. And so the last thing we'll be talking about today is just how to practice mindfulness. And you may have seen this already in some of our previous videos, but mindfulness is just referring to maintaining a non-judgmental awareness of our thoughts, sensations, and the surrounding environment. So anything we're seeing, feeling, just letting it in and also just letting it go and letting it pass by. And so we know that in a lot of research, it's been shown to be very beneficial. The main one being that it can really reduce stress for many people because it helps us cope with negative thoughts or emotions. And it kind of helps us separate ourselves from those thoughts or emotions and reduces the frequency of rumination. And rumination is just referring to focusing on a thought or emotion for an extended period of time and just kind of replaying it over and over in your mind. So by being mindful and thinking about how we can kind of detach ourselves from those negative emotions can help us reduce rumination as well. And I think a nice thing about mindfulness is that it also helps us be less emotional. It decreases our emotional reactivity. So when we're presented with a situation that we weren't expecting and it makes us feel really emotional, maybe really upset, really angry, by being mindful and having practiced that, it helps us to take a moment to pause, think about the situation before we respond appropriately. And I think that is also probably why mindfulness is shown to increase relationship satisfaction, because when we take a little bit more time to think about what we're going to respond during like an argument, for example, that can kind of help mend the situation quicker. And this picture is, I think, one that I've shown to the group a while back, but I know all of them really liked it. So on one side, you see that a mind full. So there's a bunch of things going on in this little bubble. So this person is thinking about everything they have to do. They're thinking about tomorrow. They're thinking about yesterday. And meanwhile, we have a dog over here who's just looking at what's in front of it. They're just looking at the trees and the sun, and they're really enjoying that present moment. And I think one of the tenets in our group is trying to learn how to be present and enjoying the moment every single day, and as well enjoying the process as well, I think is one of the other things we like to say a lot. So the last thing I wanted to do to end off our webinar today is to tell you about an exercise that can help reduce anxiety, but is also a great way to practice mindfulness. I really recommend doing this on a nature walk. So I know the trees are changing color now. They're like turning into beautiful shades of red, orange, and yellow. So I really encourage you, if you have a bunch of trees nearby, to go near there and see if you can do this exercise. So it's called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're using our 5 senses to take a look around you and note 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can feel, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. And for the last one there, I know sometimes it can be challenging to think about something you can taste, especially if we're not eating. So I think for this last one, another great example I saw online was to name 1 good thing about yourself if there's nothing you can taste in the present moment. Think about something that you are really proud of about yourself and say as that 1 thing. But I'm just going to give everyone a moment to try practicing that. And it doesn't have to be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 either. You can think of as many as you can, as many as you can see, feel, or hear. But this is a nice structure to completing the exercise. And as you do that, I can say some of what I can see and what I can feel. So for example, I can see Daniela's face on my screen as I'm presenting here. I can see the cup next to me. I can see my pencil cans behind. I can see my diploma over here. And I can feel myself sitting on this chair. So I can feel there's the distance between myself and the chair. I can feel how my pants feel on my skin. I can hear my mom doing the dishes, and I can hear my sister talking to her friends. I can smell the leftovers of mom's food, which was pasta tonight. And while I can't taste anything, I think 1 thing I can name about myself is that I'm really glad that I'm a very compassionate person. that's an example of how you could do that exercise. And even if you could taste something, I would like to encourage everyone to name something good about yourself and say that out loud. It's a really great way to have a positive affirmation to end the night. And with that said, that is the end of our webinar. This is just a quick summary of what we covered today. So Jerry earlier covered the exercise guidelines that are recommended for everyone. So that's 150 minutes a week of moderate to vigorous activity and 2 days a week of muscle strengthening activities. So making sure to try to have that combination of activities as best you can. We also talked about exercise snacks and the importance of warming up and cooling down. Haley showed us some really great chair exercises that you can do, especially for those of you who work in the office. I really highly recommend you use those so that you can take a break every hour or so that you're not having too much sedentary time. Dia did a wonderful job today, as always, covering the 2-minute rule, how we can bundle our temptations to stay motivated, and also how we can use if-then plans to plan for those obstacles that we might face. And finally, with mindfulness, we talk about how we can be self-compassionate, how we can build our resilience through gratitude, and how we can find acceptance with mindfulness. And all of these put together, I hope that you've taken something from each section to kind of help you achieve your goals and plan for those obstacles that may come ahead, as they always do. But yeah, that concludes our webinar today. Dr. Curnew, if you had any last thoughts, please feel free to share.
Well, I'm grateful for just being part of this. And it sounds so simple, but yet it is much harder to do. I think, enjoying the journey, and this journey has been a different journey, ups and downs. And, when someone gives you lemon, you make lemonade. And I think this helps us make better lemonade. And I hope more people spend time to look at this, stop, reflect. And because most of us don't really think about it. I love that picture of the dog. When I go walking, my world is often thinking about the 5 million things I need to do, those 80,000 thoughts that are going through my mind, most of being repetitive and most of being unpleasant, to just being with the dog, my wife and family, and just enjoying that moment. And I think I've learned to actually reflect that. And, it's not until recently that I hear the birds chirping, I can hear the wind blowing, and I'm really enjoying that aspect of things. And I'm really proud of what we've done as a group of trying to make the world a little bit better. And that's the part that really is so good, in watching people getting better on a regular basis. So please don't be hard on yourselves. Please don't give up on yourself. None of us are perfect except for my lovely wife. But we're all trying to get better and enjoy the process. So please feel free to join us if you like. Send us an email at drcurnew232@gmail.com. Again, we have they take place on Wednesdays. There's individual calls and supports and motivation. And then that group on Wednesday nights from 7 to 8. I usually fly in, fly out, fly back and forth, but it's a very special time. So I hope more of you take advantage of this and take a look at it, share with your friends and others as well. So I want to thank everybody. Well done, and you guys have done a wonderful job, all of you. Stuart, any comments or questions out there? And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think my thoughts are, we spent a great deal of time today talking about these 3 M's: mindfulness, motivation, movement, and it's really all because they're intertwined. And for me, at least, they're intertwined by our own definition of failure. So whatever our definition of failure is, it's important for us to recognize that we spend so much time talking about it today because in everyone's life, it is inevitable. You're always going to experience these setbacks in our lives, and it's just really a matter of knowing how to deal with it and how to manage it. If we don't practice mindfulness, if we don't practice self-reflection and growing from these experiences, I think that's when we become fearful of making mistakes. And I think that's when we really get stuck, when we get discouraged and we don't want to take these risks in the future because we've seen how they've gone in the past and we didn't like the way it made us feel. So for me, the way to overcome these obstacles is all about one, not suppressing these emotions as Hannah so elegantly shared, but rather giving yourself the time to fully engage with these feelings, why you're feeling this way. You know, relying on your support systems, your friends, your family. Talking it out for me has always been my greatest way of sort of feeling a little bit better about something that's cycling in my own mind that's really bothering me. And when someone else listens to it and I'm able to hear from different perspectives, that always makes me feel a little bit better. And that's always when I feel the most gratitude for the people in my lives. That's when I feel the most gratitude for my friends, my family. And by, you know, taking this experience that was at first negative and then sort of finding some gratitude in other people in my life who've made me sort of think about it in more of a positive light, that's when I start to develop the resiliency to, you know, keep on pushing and try again in the future, and then not give up when I get setbacks, which happen almost daily, at least for me. I don't know about anyone else. And then the last thing as well that Daniela really said was just, you know, reframing all of these negative experiences that you have. And I think she did a really wonderful job explaining that. For me, I think the important thing I've come to realize in recent years is that we all have a really big imposter syndrome. We all feel like good things aren't supposed to happen to us, but they're supposed to happen to other people. So when good things happen to us, that feeling of happiness sort of fleets really fast, and we don't hold on to it long enough. So my really message to everyone out here today is really just to give yourself the self-kindness to know that these good things that happen to you, they deserve to happen to you. They're happening to you for a reason. You earned them. And not to sort of, you know, feel bad about this positive feeling that you're getting. You know, we often have negative thoughts, but learn to cherish the optimistic feelings and the happy feelings you have. Because if you don't, then I really worry that, you know, moving forward, you won't learn to embrace them. And that's when, you know, the negative feelings get a little bit more overwhelming. So hold on to those positive feelings and just know that while it's normal for you to sort of have this imposter syndrome, just to be a bit more mindful of it. I think we all have it. I do as well. So learn to listen to it and try to grow and learn from it. That's my takeaway, at least.
Wonderful thoughts. And one of the things is that I want to thank, special thanks to Daniela and Haley, who've been often behind the scenes making things happen. And for something like this to happen takes the work of a whole community, and we're a very lucky community. So I hope you join our community, get healthier. There's so many people to be thankful. So it's kind of interesting is that glass half full or half empty. I think my glass is 3/4 full, and I'm not going to let the 1/4 get in the way too many times. I wish I could do that more often, but I'm better. It's kind of interesting. I spent my whole life just going from one accomplishment to the other without really acknowledging or thinking about it. Now, as I get a little bit older, is that I'm enjoying those moments more. So you young people start that right off the bat, and just enjoy the moments. And there's so many. And so I think with wonderful presentations, lots of insights, and this is something that needs to be looked at multiple times. So I want to thank everybody. Have a wonderful evening, and look forward to our next week's presentation. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.